We'll go to the negative here. It's the elephant in the room that probably dampened the spirits of the 16-point win.
Yeah.
Was the injuries. The first one we'll start with because we know for a fact he's not coming back as JK Dobbins.
Yeah.
And man,
this is tough to see for sure.
Well, and the thing is, you watch it and you go, that looks like a normal play.
Yeah.
Good tackle,
sure.
Good play. And then you get up and you can tell he's a little bit, maybe he just had it rolled over. You never thinking, well, that was Achilles.
Well, Achilles are never contact plays anyway, or contact injury, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's usually that, it's you're overextending or you step on it a wrong way or something like that. It's really, I wouldn't imagine that it's something that you end up doing because of, a contact that happened to you. So Ian Rapoport now has a new podcast /show that's on NFL Plus or whatever the heck their streaming service is. And he actually talked about this today as well and made mention of one Jonathan Taylor.
It is a torn Achilles for JK Dobbins, just a crushing injury. He's going to end up playing just 9 games from 2021 to 2023. Was also in contract negotiations. So all of that is over now. He is out for the season with a torn Achilles. We'll see about Jonathan Taylor. Would be expensive trade to do, and he would need a contract extension. But the Ravens are at least the type of forward-thinking team that might say, you know what? This actually does make sense, even though we probably have to pay him. And they are a good team. It's going to take a really good team to pull off this kind of move.
All right. So lots to unpack with this because I have a few thoughts. So Ian Rapoport says that, the Ravens are the type of team that could pull off a trade like this. I don't disagree with that. I want to get to that in a second. But the other elephant in the room here is that JK Dobbins held out till, essentially the last possible minute to try to persuade the Ravens to give him a contract extension. You just heard Ian say that he played 9 games in the last 2 or 3 seasons, whatever it was. Either way, he hasn't played a lot. And I had this conversation about how, Saquon took the 1-year, $12 million deal. You had Dalvin Cook also taking a similar type of deal. JK was holding out for God knows what, because, those 2 guys, studs, took those types of deals. You had to wonder what JK was trying to do. It's a tough situation and it sucks, but this is exactly why we were talking about running backs, the market itself just kind of being lower than expected.
For me, it stings. And listening to Patrick Queen talk about it after the game yesterday, I feel for the guy. I mean, if you've ever been through injuries as an athlete and been through multiple ones, and so
you have,
and so personally, I'll explain my story. In the minor leagues, I started my career in 2014. I tore a ligament in my ankle to start. Didn't have surgery on it. Then I came back next spring training, and I'm taking a secondary lead off of second base with a week to go in spring training. And I shuffle, but because there was still an issue, my ankle just gave out because there was an issue, fluke.
Yeah.
It was a rainy day too, and re-injured it, had to get surgery. And so my first year and a half of my professional career, and the mindset of that of being like, man, here we go again. I have to go through the grueling mindset of I got to try to stay healthy. I just signed. I'm trying to prove myself. And that was on that level. For JK Dobbins right now, because of his career, he's had his ACL injury.
Yep. The scope.
Then you scoped it. Then all of a sudden you feel like you're finally there. And then this happens where it's out of your control. And I feel for the guy because it really is. It is heartbreaking in that scenario. The reality of this business that we talk about, how running backs, because they're not looked at the same way, there's always going to be an uphill battle. And even if everything went perfectly for JK and you want him to get the money, this is what teams look at of going, well, how do we assess? Because running back's a position that if you have injuries like this to your body, the question is how much can you come back from it?
That's a great point. And that's where I kind of wanted to bring up the next question was like, I think that JK's time in Baltimore is probably over. The bigger question is his time in the NFL over? How do you come back? How do you come back from an ACL and an Achilles injury as a running back and try to find another job in the NFL? Like that in your first 5 years, we're not talking, over a span of 10, 12 years as a running back. In your first 5, all this happens to someone. Is there going to be an NFL team that's actually interested in JK at this point?
Well, and I'll say this, he's 24, right? So, and the positive with this is at least everything else, His legs are going to be fresh. It's the biggest part is for the Achilles and the burst, right?
Yeah.
Is how much is he going to feel like he can have that burst back? Because that at least is the positive in the situation, that he doesn't have a lot of tread on the tires, so to speak. And it could even, I'll say this, it could open up the door where he comes back, but unfortunately it probably won't be at the value that he was hoping for. But again, like you said, running backs, it just constantly feels like there's someone that's coming out each and every year, every week. And they obviously, people still value running backs. We're seeing running backs getting taken early in drafts, but they're not afraid to say, hey, we have another guy that we think could be a part of it. I mean, the example right now, Clyde Edwards-Helaire was the first-round pick for the Chiefs, and the seventh-round pick, Isaiah Pacheco, now has become their lead guy.
Yeah.
Right? So that's just how it works.
Not only that, but like with the Ravens, you have Gus Edwards, who could start in the NFL. He just happens to be our second-string running back, who's now going to be more or less the starter at this point.
The good thing is the Ravens running back room, they have guys that have been there.
There's depth.
Gus Edwards is a bruiser. Justice Hill does kind of everything for your team. And also shout out to him that he stayed around so long because he learned to do the little things, by the way. So if you want to stay around, whatever you do, special teams, third down situations, and he got rewarded coming to situations and he finished off 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So Melvin Gordon's elevated from the practice squad. You have some depth there. It'd be interesting with Jonathan Taylor because his talent of what he has, if he's healthy, changes the team right now.
Which segues into the next question I was going to bring up.
Oh boy.
I hope I'm not cutting you off too much.
Nope, you're not.
I want to know from you, what does it look like? Who do the Ravens have to give up? And I should have looked this up, but I don't know what kind of cap space we actually have. But what does that kind of deal even look like? Do the Ravens have to sacrifice a lot to get him this year right now?
I don't see. The Colts won a first-round pick. They want high compensation, right? So they might not get that first round. Maybe it's a second.
But do they at this point, since there hasn't been a whole lot of interest in that sort of demand, like can the Ravens work that out?
Yeah, but then they're still going to, if you're going to trade for him, you have to make a decision. Are we going to sign Jonathan Taylor long-term or is this just going to be a rental type of season? That's going to be another question and the value that's going to happen.
Sure.
Personally, I just don't see the Ravens going to make the move. I think it's intriguing. I don't want to fantasize too much about Jonathan Taylor being a Baltimore Raven because we'll just cross that bridge when we get there. We know what that could look like. I just think it's more going to come down to if the value's there, you make the decision. Is it for 1 year or do we think we can actually sign him long-term? Because the Ravens are going to have to make some decisions on other guys.
Yeah. And
I think that's still going to be a priority for the team moving forward. So that's all I got with that.
Yeah. Dog Training Plus says, I feel so bad for Dobbins. When he's healthy, he's one of, if not the top running backs in the league. And that's it. But your most, what's the saying about, your best ability
is availability,
right? So it's like, yeah, it's great when he's on the field, but man, he's got to be out there.
Also, this is props for people that are able to sports in general. I don't think people understand at times the rare breeds of guys that can play as long as they do. It is so special because it's a part of, yes, your training regimen and what happens. Another part is luck, by the way. Like I tell people all the time with my dad at the street, they're like, man, he showed up. I'm like, do you know how lucky he got at times that he didn't have an injury that forced him to miss? Guys get hit in the hand all the time, break bones. He's had those moments, didn't break a bone. He had messed up his ankle. He chose to play through that. That was his choice. But a lot of other situations, he got extremely lucky.
Yeah.
JK Dobbins, unfortunately, has been extremely unlucky in the situation, but that has nothing to do with how talented he is. When he's on the field, he is a difference maker. And unfortunately, the Ravens are going to be without him.